Welcome to Expert Profiles Atlanta, where Atlanta's influencers and innovators share strategies for overcoming obstacles and achieving success in business and life. Here's your host, best-selling author and Atlanta influencer, Neil Howe.
Hello and welcome to the show. This is your host, Neil Howe, and today my guest is Michael Fischer. Michael is the managing broker at Homestead Realtors, and he helps friends in the world of real estate achieve their goals as consumers as well as professionals. Michael, welcome to the show.
Neil, thank you so much for having me. Really looking forward to the interview, and it's a pleasure to be a part of your program here today.
Well, we are talking about real estate today, and real estate is definitely one of those industries where you can be very successful. There's a lot of money made in real estate, and people are always looking to buy or sell. There's always a reason to move, so it's very important to make sure we're dealing with somebody that is competent and knows what they're doing in the world of real estate. Because I know in years past, every person had some kind of relation that was involved in real estate. So we're going to try and answer some of these questions here that many people have, and make sure that they are dealing with the right person. So Michael, give us a little bit of your background about your business and how you got started with that. So
a little bit about my story, and thanks again for that intro. I appreciate that. When I first started and really going back as a child, I grew up in Metro Atlanta during the housing boom of the 90s, and grew up in a typical kind of subdivision where a lot of houses under construction, and just always loved everything to do with real estate. Always really interested in me. Got into a little bit of it while I was in college, working for some property management firms, kind of caught the bug. And when I graduated, I started, it was right in the middle of the recession. So some people said that was the worst thing to do. In hindsight, I think getting licensed when times were the worst was probably the best thing to do. Caused me to kind of learn the best way to do things. And if you can survive in that industry, you can certainly survive in a healthy real estate market. So I got licensed in 2010, was with a boutique firm after I moved to Atlanta. And from 2010 to 2012, started kind of cutting my teeth and getting going as the market recovered. Really loved the sales side, but also had a passion for entrepreneurship. Just always had kind of a inclination towards starting and wanting to have control of a business. And so in 2014, I opened and founded Homestead Realtors with my business partner. At the time, we were a virtual company. It kind of served a niche for us to really conduct our own business in our own way with our own brand, and not be confined or constrained to corporate guidelines, and kind of having our own thing that we really wanted to make ours. Over the first 2 or 3 years, we grew pretty quick. Our sales grew. We added some people. We didn't really look for folks, but they saw what we were doing in the market and really wanted to be a part of it. Got our first brick and mortar office about 18 months after we started. And then about 2.5 years ago, moved into our current location, which if anybody's familiar with the Intown markets, we're in Virginia-Highlands, which is really close to the Beltline and Pont City Market, and right in the heart of the Intown neighborhood. So right now we service the Intown communities. We've got 8 agents that work all over the city, and we kind of have a little bit different take on the sales cycle and how to build relationships and how to engage the community, and really have had fun kind of creating this business that touches the community, that engages the community, and provides a service for those that are looking for help in the real estate world, which is, as you said, just about everybody has to live somewhere last time I checked. So we're in kind of a pretty good niche, and Atlanta is a very healthy real estate market. So we're just thrilled to be a part of it.
Well, it is. Atlanta's been growing for a number of years now, and the real estate market seems to be booming regardless of what industry that you're in. But tell me about the two sides of your business. You say that you work with the buyers and sellers in moving homes, but you also have another aspect of your business where you're working with agents and educating them as well.
Yeah, so I kind of like to call my role within the company as a player coach. So I'm out there in the field selling. I work with buyers and sellers looking to fulfill their real estate needs. So one thing that we're really good at is coming up with creative solutions to complex problems. If you've ever dealt with a move, a home search, there's a lot of dynamics going on there, and sometimes they require some really outside the box thinking. So we really build relationships with our clients. Most of our business is referral based. I'd say somewhere between 85 and 90% of our business is referral based. And we really work hard to be part of the community, give a good service that provides value for our clients and our customers, and then achieve whatever those goals that they are looking for. We work with buyers, sellers. We also work with investors. Really anything that touches real estate, we have a pretty suitable business model for. And then on the other side, I manage a small office. So we're a boutique. We've got 8 agents working for us. They're all over the city. We have a really cool group of people from 2 years in the business to 50 years in the business. And so it's a really nice spread of experience and perspective. And while we all have our own sales business, we really approach everything as a team. So we like to help each other out, and we like to work, together to come up with these solutions that we were talking about. And on a day-to-day basis, my job entails, in addition to buying and selling and helping my clients, helping my agents get through transactions, get deals done, come up with strategies for marketing properties, strategies for marketing their business, strategies for building their business, setting goals, goal planning, really anything. I mean, every day is different. It's one thing I love more about this business than anything else is literally every single day is different. And it just keeps things fresh and keeps me sharp as I can be, and it's problem solving. There's just issues that you work through every single day, and it really keeps the brain moving.
So you say that you're a boutique real estate agency. What is the difference between you and maybe some of the bigger, more corporately owned ones?
Sure. So the first thing I think that's most different is we are independent. So, if you look at a company within the corporate structure, you've got things like corporate branding guidelines, you've got processes, you've got reports that go upward, and you lose a little bit of that local touch the further separated you get from the actual people on the ground serving their community. And with real estate in particular, we've always come from the thought process that it's hyper local, it's market driven, and you really need to be on the ground working with your consumer and your clients to kind of understand what they're dealing with and what they're going through. And also it's about value. For a realtor, it's really important to understand why somebody wants to live in a particular part of town, why one area has a premium over another, or why one area might be a fit for one person where another part of town might be the perfect fit for the next. So I would say the biggest difference between what we have is the flexibility to serve our market in the way that we see fit, but also come up with creative ways to engage the community that might not necessarily be something that would fit or work in a different market. So we can be really hyper local with how we engage and how we communicate with our prospective markets. It also allows us the agility to move and make decisions quickly. So the market, things shift very fast, and having the ability to see an issue or see a problem and come up with a solution for it and being able to act on it gives us, I would say, an unusual advantage over a slower moving big organization where every decision has to be vetted, gone through several chains of decision making, and could take forever. And by that time, a firm like ours has already moved and implemented in the initiatives that we're going for.
Well, speed is very important in any transaction. So making sure that you're first to make decisions is definitely a good advantage for you over some of those other bigger corporations that are out there. Now, Michael, you say you specialize in in-town living. What is the difference between an in-town home buyer or seller and somebody that wants to be out in the suburbs?
So I think the first thing is you've got a wide variety of housing stock, from your single family homes of varying sizes and varying ages. Um, Atlanta is not an old city, but we've got houses that we routinely work with that are 100, 120 years old. And they've gone through many major stages of renovations, and some things were done very well back in the day and have survived until today, and some things were not done very well and just never addressed. So there's different dynamics, with the way that lots are drawn, with the way that the city kind of grows up around neighborhoods. There's a very big difference between, say, your coordinated developments in outerline markets where you have a subdivision that has very clear HOAs and guidelines for how to build and look and feel in a community. You also have a lot of multifamily, so the next step up from that is going to be duplexes and triplexes and how to interact with those in a particular market. You have lots of townhouse developments, and then you can go right into the urban corridor where you have your condos and high rises, and then how those interact and work with the apartments and the developments that are going on. So there's just a lot to understand about the way the market works and how everything stays harmonious and where everything fits. And again, there's certain reasons why people choose to move towards the city and live closer in, and there's certain reasons to choose to move out and further away. And so it's our job to really unlock the what's driving somebody to want to move into the city, and then really educate them on the nuances of the markets and what they need to know about to make an informed decision.
Mm. So what are some of those decisions? Because, I know traffic in Atlanta is terrible, and that's got to come into the decision-making process. But what are the benefits of living in the city as opposed to in the suburbs?
You hit probably one of the most driving reasons is proximity to work. We have a lot of people that will work in the urban districts, so your Buckhead and Midtown kind of skylines, and they want to be able to get to work in a reasonable amount of time. And sometimes a 2 or 3 mile commute might mean 20 minutes, but if you go to the outlying suburbs, all of a sudden it's 45 minutes to an hour. And some people are willing to trade, say, size of house or amenities in the neighborhood or community for closer proximity so that they can spend less time commuting. Other things that drive decisions on here are going to be, there's a lot of diversity in the city, cultural diversity. There's a lot of, I would say there's probably a higher propensity of new restaurants, and there's some exciting developments kind of going on. We're seeing a lot of development around the Beltline, and a lot of people that really want to come home, lock their doors and go out and be outside and go and experience, kind of living in the city, and that diversity and that excitement that is created by this new kind of found enjoyment of being outdoors and experiencing the culture that you have in the city now.
Mm. So what kind of homes are you kind of seeing people are buying and selling in the city? Is there a lot on the condo side, or is it more in family homes?
Well, it's actually real interesting. So we're seeing a couple different kinds of migrations, I would say. So one thing that we've seen, and this is probably going back 5 or 6 years now, is a migration of empty nesters who were raised families in, say, the Cobb County, the Gwinnett counties, the North Fulton area of Metro Atlanta. And they were actually moving into the city because they wanted smaller houses. They wanted less house to manage. They wanted to be able to lock and go so they could travel. but they also love the idea of being able to walk to restaurants, walk to shopping, you park the car in the garage and maybe not drive it for 4 or 5 days, be able to ride bikes and live in a community where they weren't spending as much time in the house. I will say the millennial population, so kind of on the other end of the age spectrum, a lot of the millennials, they also want to lock and go. Now they can't afford maybe the same price point as some of the empty nesters moving back into the city. So you're seeing them look towards condos, look towards lofts. They want to be near restaurants. It's a lot of the same kind of elements in the community that the empty nesters are looking for, the millennials are looking for too. They want to be close to work. They don't want to sit in traffic all day. We're seeing more and more dual income families. So you have a husband and wife that haven't had kids yet. So they're choosing to live in a smaller home in the city so that they can enjoy walking to restaurants, walking to the brewery scene in Atlanta is really hot right now. All along the Beltline, you've got breweries popping up, you've got new restaurants, and a lot of people love the idea of just being able to spend time in the city and really not in their cars. So you're seeing a desire from those two generations, and then moving out of the urban area or the in-town areas, I would say is a lot of your younger couples that have enjoyed living in town, and maybe they need a little bit more space now to grow. And so they're moving to the suburbs and kind of taking the houses that the empty nesters were moving out of. So there's kind of two migrations here. So that middle sector, I would say people in their early 30s to their early 40s are moving more north and back into the suburbs where they can have a little bit more room and a little bit more space and a little bit more house and kind of grow that family appropriately.
All right, Michael, I want to hit you with some questions that are probably on the minds of people who are looking to buy or sell a house. First of all, what are the advantages of working with a real estate agent like yourself rather than trying to do it all yourself or by owner?
And that's a great question, Neil. And we get that a lot. And I think what it comes down to at the end of the day is you've got, in every trade, you've got people that are good at their business and good at their trade. You've got people that are great, and you've got people on the other end. And I think everyone knows a realtor. Let's get real. The ability for somebody to get their license is pretty easy. You take a class, you take a test, and congratulations, you have a license. And I think a lot of the lifestyle, at least the way it's portrayed in the media, portrayed on home and garden television, portrayed, in pop culture, is that it's a very sexy, fun industry where you can make a lot of money and you don't have to work necessarily very hard. Of course, that couldn't be further from the truth. But what happens is you get people who want to work with people they know. I read a statistic the other day that the average agent in the United States, this is from NAR, sells less than 4 houses a year. So if you think about the first agent that you know off the top of your head, there's a 50% chance that they've sold less than 4 houses in the past 12 months, which if you're selling 4 houses or less in 12 months, you're probably not near the top end of the profession. And you're not somebody that's really understanding the nuances of the industry and of the trade. Also interesting to me was there's some statistics out there that say as much as 85% of the transactions done in a particular market are only done by 15% of the agents. So if you think of the average agent, chances are they are not in that top 15%, which means that you're working with people that maybe don't have as much experience, and that I think has become a little bit normalized in the community. So what I found is, when people work with us, oftentimes we'll hear things like, "Wow, we can't believe how smooth this transaction went." We feel like there should be more drama. There should be more last minute changes. There should be, where's the drama? And a well-run transaction, generally speaking, doesn't have a lot of drama. And if you're getting to the root of what you're trying to do and what you're trying to find, it shouldn't be hard to find the house that you're looking for, and it shouldn't be hard to get your loan set up, and it shouldn't be hard to get moved in and get through your inspections. These are all things that a savvy agent can get through relatively easily, and all the landmines and potholes and hurdles that can happen in a transaction, a great agent can navigate around that.
Talk to me, Michael, about some of those landmines and potholes. There's obviously a lot of mistakes that people that are trying to buy a home either on their own or maybe with a real estate agent who doesn't have the experience. What are some of those mistakes that you see people making?
I mean, the number one mistake that I see is communication, and whether it's somebody working for themselves on their own, or whether it's an agent working with a client, or even two agents working together. Technology is great, and we've seen where it can help us, but I also have seen where it becomes too much of a crutch, and people rely on it too much and don't understand exactly what they're there to do, right? Which is bring value to the client. And so what we do at Homestead and what we train and what we really strive to do with all of our transactions is to really ask the right questions. And a good agent knows which questions to ask. There are landmines, but every landmine and every hurdle and every pothole is different with the particular buyer you're working, because every transaction is different. There's different dynamics between somebody trying to sell their house and buy a new house, somebody trying to renovate a house, somebody trying to buy their first home, somebody downsizing, somebody upsizing. There's so many nuances to every single transaction out there. And I think where I see issues come up is when that people move too quick and they don't really have a great understanding of what's driving the reason for the purchase, and how can we plan and coordinate this thing in a way that gets ahead of some of those things. One of the most common mistakes I see people do is they shop before they get their financing set up. That's a really simple item that I always suggest when I'm interviewing my buyers and I'm asking them what they're doing and they're asking me for advice. My first thing is to say, look, getting a loan can be stressful. It's a lot of documents. Your lender is going to ask you for things that you never thought that you would even be able to dig up, and you have no idea why they're doing it, and there's no reason behind it. But it's much easier to do that on the front end, have that all set up, and then approach the purchase where you can solely focus on what you're looking to buy and really get your full attention, your full bandwidth into the search, and not have to worry about the nuances of getting your loan and finding your lender and setting all that up. So really, like I said, it all goes back to communication and asking the right questions and building that relationship with, if you're a consumer, building that relationship with your buyer. If you're an agent, building it with another agent or building it with your client.
So take me through a little bit of the process. If I am looking to move and I'm looking to buy a new home, what's the first thing that I need to be doing? Is it looking to sell my house, or take me through the process that you would suggest if I'm looking to move from one home to another?
Well, my first suggestion would be to go to homesteadatlanta.com and no, but I would say my first suggestion would be to go ahead and find a realtor that you feel comfortable working with. I suggest that buyers interview at least two so that they can compare and contrast two different styles. What it will do is one of two things will happen. Either you'll feel really good about the person you initially were going to go with, or you'll realize that there are stark differences between one agent to the next. So I would say find a good agent to work with, because they can really, if you're asking what to do first, you probably need help getting through the transaction. And a good agent will figure out exactly what's driving your transaction and start putting together a calendar for how this thing could possibly look. I love my buyers that will call me 6 months out and say, we're thinking about buying. Here's our idea. We're kind of looking for this particular kind of house. We're shopping around this particular price point, and we want to be ready to go when we're ready to go. What suggestions do you have to kind of sync up the process and get ready for this transaction down the road? And in that event, I can really work with my clients to kind of set up their transaction for success. And more often than not, I find those are the people that find the house that they really wanted, or they're the ones that get the best deal because they were ready to jump on the right house at the right time, and they had the most compelling offer that they were able to put together. So that would be my biggest decision. My biggest piece of advice is to find a professional that you feel comfortable working with. And for me, I wish I could help everybody sell a house. I know where I can bring value and where I can't. In the event that I can't bring value, I've referred business away because I want to make sure that I'm the right person for the job. And if not, then I want to connect you with somebody that is the right person for the job. If somebody's moving to East Cobb, I'm probably not going to be the right person for that for that particular client because I just don't know the market very well. And I don't know what drives value from one neighborhood to the next, or one school district to the next, or why somebody lives here versus there. And on the flip side, if somebody wants me to dive into why one particular street in an Intown neighborhood is selling for more than another, I can give you every reason why, and I can show you half the houses on that street that have sold, and I can probably introduce you to the neighbor and the city councilman. So I really just work on being that connector and making sure that at every step of the transaction we can bring in value. And I think unless you've bought and sold houses, for a long time and you really feel comfortable, finding a good professional to help guide you is the best step to take up front.
And how about the value, Michael, of having a good real estate agent as opposed to trying to save some money by doing it by owner?
So, I love, some people ask me, what do you think about these, the e-buyers and the discount brokerages and those kinds of things. And I tell them, look, I love that a consumer, more than probably nearly any industry, a consumer can dream of a certain business model within real estate, and they can go and use that service, right? So if I don't want to talk to a realtor at all, I can do it. If I want to do it by myself, I can do it. If I want to hire a discount broker, I can do it. If I want to hire someone in between, I can do it. And if I want all the bells and whistles and the super high-end approach, I can also hire that. So for me, the diversity of what we have in the market available is an asset, not a disadvantage, and certainly not something that we as full-time real estate practitioners should be afraid of. And dealing with e-buyers and some of these bigger companies that are coming in to try and cut the process down and in an effort of that trying to save money, I've seen a lot of inefficiencies. So there are certain brands and brokerages that use completely automated models to come up with their pricing. And in my experience, it can be right every once in a while. And it can also be very wrong. And it can be very wrong on the low end, and it can be very wrong on the high end. And neither of those are good for the consumer. In one situation, you're selling the property for less than it should be sold for. And in another situation, you're overpricing a house and it's sitting on the market. And statistics say the longer it sits on the market, the less percentage of market value you're going to get for the house. So things like pricing the property accurately is one of the most important things that we do, and we just obsess over getting the listing prices right when we put properties to market. I also see some inefficiencies in the way that the e-buyers process information. So they have lots of inventory, but the way that it's marketed and the way that things like access are set up make it really challenging to actually interact with the properties and visit them and see them. And like we talked about earlier, real estate's extremely fast moving, and time is money. So, a house that's on the market day one that has a lot of attention, you need to be able to capitalize on that attention and drive a feeding frenzy to a particular property that's got a lot of interest. On the same note, a house that's been sitting for a week or two, the longer it sits, the more the more the property gets a stigma attached to it, and that always affects the bottom line. So you need somebody that's really actively working with the property day in, day out, generating leads, generating feedback, and adjusting the property and adjusting the marketing accordingly. And I have yet to see a model that replaces what a great agent can do to get a house sold.
Well, it seems like the message here, Michael, is you need to deal with somebody that really knows the area that you want to be in, because knowledge is power, and it's going to save you a lot of money in the long run by either going with an agent that doesn't know the area too well or trying to do it yourself. So we have covered quite a bit of information here today, Michael. If there's one thing that we haven't covered that you would really like to share with the listeners, what might that be?
I would say this theory that realtors aren't needed anymore, and I know we covered a little bit of that earlier with the e-buyer discussion, but I think what consumers need to know is there are a lot of realtors out in the world, and you really need to focus on finding somebody that really understands what's driving your decision to buy a home, and then ensuring that they're able to inject value for you. A great agent's going to be able to do that every time. There's rarely a case where we have a situation where we don't feel like we did enough to justify the commission that we might make on a particular transaction. So I think that the stigma that realtors are a dying breed I don't know that it's accurate. I would say more that the stigma is that bad realtors and those that are part-time, that I think may be in more danger of being replaced by more automated systems.
Talk to me about the position that somebody is in. If they have a family member who is a realtor, but like we've been discussing, is a part-time or just does it on the side a little bit. What kind of advice can you give to them to make sure that they are going with somebody reputable and not kind of hurt that family member's feelings in the same time?
Oh man. There's some people, I know some people in the market that don't work with family because it's too personal, it's too close to the vest, and they'll say something, along the lines of, hey, let's connect you with somebody that's really going to do a wonderful job for you. I'm too closely connected to you to really serve in your best interests. And then I know other people, I mean, I've sold my sister a house, and I would just say that you want to feel comfortable with who you use. You want to make sure that the person has a good resume that they can back on. If you're looking to move to North Georgia and your mom is a realtor in Cumming or Brookhaven, they might not be a good fit. And I think my hope is that the family member would recuse themselves. But we all know that doesn't necessarily happen all the time. So I would say that, ask for a resume, ask for a list of sales that they've done. And if you see some overlap with what you're looking for and what you might be interested in, then you may have somebody that can probably help you. Otherwise, I would hope that a byproduct of a more serious discussion on, what that particular client's needs are, would result in a situation where the family member would recuse themselves. So, interview them like you would anybody else. Just don't give them the business because, they're your aunt or your uncle. Make sure they're a professional. Make sure they know what they're doing.
Right. And of course, you are dealing with one of the largest business or personal purchases that you're going to make in your life. So you don't want to be making any mistakes.
Really important.
Well, Michael, it's been a pleasure talking to you. Tell the listeners what the best way is to contact you if they are looking to interview somebody to help them sell or buy their next home.
Sure. Well, hopefully folks will see our signs around town. They're big blue signs that say Homestead Realtors. Our logo is a 4-pane window, which you would find in many of the older houses throughout the neighborhood. Our website is homesteadatlanta.com, one word. You can find all of our contact information there. I'm always on my cell phone. Neil and I, we joked earlier about how often this thing buzzes, but I can be reached on the cell phone. You'll find my contact information there, or you can shoot us an email. We also have a pretty active social media following. We have a Facebook page and an Instagram page. You can find that by searching Homestead Atlanta as well. And Neil, I really appreciate you having me on the show, and I really appreciate the opportunity to share some about our business here today.
Well, excellent. Thanks for joining me today, Michael. We'll be speaking with Michael Fischer. He's the managing broker at Homestead Realtors. Michael, thanks for being my guest on Expert Profiles Atlanta today.
Thanks, Neil.
And to our listening audience, if you like what you hear, hit that like button and share, and we'll see you next time on the show.
Thank you for listening to Expert Profiles Atlanta with Neil Howe. To learn more about the resources in the show or to listen to past episodes, visit expertprofilesatlanta.com.